on this computer. There we go. Okay, we are recording a little bit late. So yeah, if you guys want to go ahead and do it, by all means, I'm not going to stop you. I don't think I should participate, even though I know I would be a useful resource. I'm also a lone wolf, and so I just don't fit into the what would probably happen is that I'd be constantly saying, no, 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 that's not the way to do it. Here's how to do it. And you guys wouldn't learn anything. So I think it best that, that you guys organize something. I'll also point out that last week, we didn't have any way of working together. Will Slack be an appropriate venue for you guys to work together as a team on this?
Could be used. It's just that how to say it? Discord was working all right. What we used to work together was video chats on Discord, like we're doing on Zoom. We did Zoom. We did the same in Discord. And just we had the project in a GitHub. We did a Unity project. It was using its own thing, but basically it's a GitHub. So we have the project on a server, and when I work on it, it's uploaded on a server. George downloads it instantly by a click, and
yeah, we were just doing one person controlling it. But
yeah,
I mean, those are details. I think it would be possible on any communication platform to be able to collaborate. But the key thing is just getting, right now, yeah, we don't have the working story world. We can't test like the fundamentals. Like you had asked these guys last week, like, well, do you think this is, like how many hours do you want to commit per week? Do you think this is a good thing to like go forward on? And I'm at the point where it's like, I don't even know. I don't even know that answer because I gotta play the world. I gotta see if it's like satisfying. And when I was, building this little like climbing world, I was like, I'm not even gonna get my answer from doing this because it's not like I'm in the world. I'm not like experiencing a story world someone else made. I'm not in that role of the player. I'm in the role of the developer. I'm too close.
Well, then.
But that's where I was at.
Okay, I'll just ask you, who is willing to accept the responsibility of setting up this jam session?
I'll set it up.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, next Saturday, we're jamming. That was easy.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to use Wumpus 8.2. We're going to start in Lin Yang's time zone.
Okay.
And he's going to start off, and we're all going to try to do a shared story world on Saturday and try to have 35 encounters.
Okay, good.
Are you up for that, Lin Yang?
I think you did good.
Are you up for it? Are you available on Saturday?
Yeah. So what time?
Basically what we did is you work when you're so your time would be like, let's say you work on the afternoon, and I don't remember the timing. George, you told it better than me. We had this discussion 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
Well, how I was thinking about it was that if we came in with the shared idea for a story, like if it's the rom-com story, boy meets girl, or if it's Luke kills, Darth Vader or whatever, if we have that shared story, then one person can start writing. And then if another person joins the video chat with the first person, so if you started at 8 a.m. and it's 4 in the morning for Lorenzo time, and then Lorenzo gets up at 8, he can join your video chat. You can fill him in on the details, shared authoring happens. And that happens as the time zones go all the way around the world. And then at the end, we have a very terrible story written by 12 people, but at least we'll have enough encounters in sequence in one story that we'll be able to see if this core concept is a good idea and worth pursuing with all our hearts going forward.
Okay. What I suggest is that you post messages with the vital information on both the Slack and the Thaddeus boards, so that everybody knows, and basically just give them info, you know, be here at this time, at this place, here's the meeting ID, whatever, and let's do this. And also explain the idea of this thing rolls along, that it will continue all through the day.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the rolling, the not getting obsessed with having the perfect story, but just having a lot of sequences that all connect to each other, so we can experience that arc of a game and really try the encounter reaction dichotomy. Test that out big time, or where my head's at. But I don't want
to. It's good to have the role, but it's very important that we have this group discussion, like once a day, something like that. For example, at this time, it seems that at this time, for example, we have some peoples. And so usually when we did the game on the weekend, we had a talk between, let's say, this time and for 2 hours or 3 hours. And we were agreeing on core ideas, core principles. Because for you, for George, or for Billy, or for Douglas, or for Yin to work alone, we all need to be on the same page, and because we can't go. It was not George going in a direction, me going in a direction. It was doing little steps to do the big idea we had together. So we will need to have long talking sessions and sharing common references before coding the story and writing storylines, because we need to. What's good is we followed your classes, Chris, so we all have this common reference of what's a story, what's interactivity. So all this is already done, but there's also personal opinions, characters, personalities that needs to get along. We need to get along before going full work on this.
Okay, good. Okay, so sounds like you've got an activity all set up, and okay, that's great. Run with it.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah, see what happens. I am curious, George, when this wraps, or when you are satisfied, I'd appreciate it if you could send me a summary of what you accomplished, or even the story world file.
Yeah, it'll be an XML file.
Yeah.
Right. We would have failed if we don't get to an XML file with 35 encounters of varying quality, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay.
A story with a beginning, a middle, and more than one end. Maybe that would be the goal. I don't know.
Good.
We didn't do with George was to record all the interaction, all the discussion, because it's hard to explain. It's hard to explain what we all went through and everything. So Miles is having Douglas is having a good idea of recording the sessions like we are recording here, but recording the work sessions like we do if we were doing a live project or something like that. I could set
we could do Twitch streaming. So we stream the whole development over Twitch on a shared Twitch channel, and that would give social media, exposure to the Wumpus program.
I didn't. So I started a Twitch channel just to show movies, but I don't know how to record the Twitch I stream. So on Twitch you can do live, but to record the video, I don't know what it's. I'm sure it can be done. I just don't know at this moment now how to do it, but Surely possible.
Actually, I do want to encourage what you're doing at a conceptual level. Let me show you something here. I believe it's, yeah, here it is. Okay. This is a bronze leaf-bladed sword. I made it. I really made it. This started.
Yeah, I saw the blog post on this one. This is tens of thousands of hours here.
Yeah, this was originally copper wire and tin solder. And the important point, the point I want to make is that nobody ever told me how to make a bronze leaf-bladed sword. I just experimented. I played. So I said, how do I get something really hot? And so I got some fire bricks and bought a bunch of coal, and I had a shop vac, which shoots a lot of air, and I stuck that in the bottom. Actually, the very first time, I tried to use a barbecue thing, and it just melted. But the point is, I did all sorts of things, and I made lots of failures, but I got better and better, and I got this. All my life, that's how I've done it. Nobody taught me how to do computer games. I just made it up as I went along. That's what we had to do back then. Nobody knew. Time and again, I've just plunged into things and figured them out. I learned, how to do engines by working on motorcycles and Volkswagens. And I just plunged in and, well, let's see what we can do here. And I strongly encourage that style on you. You have to accept the fact that you will fail. When you first start off, you're going to do stupid things. You'll set fire to the house and, other stuff. But you can eventually, you get better and better at it, and you analyze your mistakes and blah, blah, blah. Learn by playing. It is far and away the best way to learn. And so, you've sat through all of my lectures and all of that crap, and you've read a lot of crap, but you will learn more in this exercise than all of the other stuff put together. So by all means, start playing around with this tool. So any other ideas, comments, anything about Wumpus?
The ordering of the encounters. I know you had discussed about drag and drop last week, but getting it into a graph node view a la Twine, I think would also be like seeing how these things are, connected or not connected. I don't know. It's in my mind.
Showing the graph is going to be very difficult. After a great deal of cogitation, I decided for Le Morte d'Arthur to simply eliminate the whole notion of the arbitrary consequentiality. And instead, I simply assign a time to one number. Just this is the time this will take place. Now the times are not in absolute sequence. It can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9, 12, and so forth. The numbers set the sequencing, but not everything. I leave gaps to allow me to make insertions if necessary. This is a very important point that is still very debatable. I believe that I've abandoned the notion of replayability. Replayability is important for games because games have simple interfaces and are basically fairly simple, and it is intrinsic that you play them over and over and over and over and over and get better. I've decided with Le Morte d'Arthur, you do it once. You can go back and do it a second time if you want, but it will be the same. This is radical, and it took me several weeks. first I reached the conclusion that's what I should do, but I didn't believe it. And so I spent several weeks, are you sure? I mean, are you sure you want to do this? And I've come to the conclusion that yes, I am sure that this is the best way to proceed. And if you guys want that, then I can give you the alternate, I can modify Wumpus so that it operates in the same way. And one nice thing about this sequencing is that it allows you to, I have a button I can, or a menu item I can use in the version for Le Morte d'Arthur that just says sort by time or by turn number. And you do that and zip, they're all in order. And that really clarifies things. The haphazard ordering, basically the ordering you get in Wumpus is the order in which you created them.
Yeah.
Which is useless. So I think this alternate system is certainly makes life easier during the development process. And I think it's not necessarily an impediment to the playing.
But even with that, if we could go to a turn number. So when I was playing around in the Wumpus, I was at like scene 6, and I was like, okay, if I click option 1, maybe I go to scene 20. If I click option 3, maybe I go to scene 30. And then it's like the branching can be encoded right in there. Love it, Douglas.
Yeah, that's great. Let's see, actually, what you did reminds me of an old cartoon I saw, which shows space. There's just stars and empty blackness. Only up in one corner, there's a door that's open, and there are two scientists standing in the doorway, and one of them is saying, I don't know, I think Professor Jones' experiments have gone too damn far this time. So, a little weird. Anyway, I can do this, I can make this change in Wumpus if there's a strong agreement for it. I'm going to suggest that we discuss this on Thaddeus and or Slack. I want to get a consensus, not a consensus, but at least a strong vote of confidence, one way or the other. You know, I've decided for myself, but you guys can do whatever you want. So start thinking about the nature of consequentiality in a story world. You still get the jumps that come from specifying consequences of reactions. However, those are not easily presented graphically, because for one encounter, you can have 3 options. For each of the encounters, you could have 3 reactions, each of which has its own consequence, which means you could have 9 consequences coming out of one encounter. So you really can't draw a picture of that. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
The other thing I was thinking about with the reactions, which is why I was like, a key thing for me is the figuring out this coupling of the encounter and reaction to see if that's, because in like Twine, for instance, you can have the options that bring you to a reaction page, which would just be another encounter where you only have one option, and the option is to continue.
Yeah.
So it's, I don't know, I was just thinking about that in the void. Like, would that make it simpler to visualize these things, to not have reactions? Are the reactions the key component to the illusion of, I say illusion not in a bad sense, but the illusion of replayability or the illusion of interactivity?
I think the reactions are essential, because when you make a choice, you need to see you need some kind of feedback.
Like some feedback.
You know, how that worked. And so it's a 3-step sequence: situation, decision, consequence or reaction. And now normally the way that's done in most games is situation, decision, which jumps you to a new situation.
New situation. Mm-hmm.
This is a fundamental break with that, and I think it is, for storytelling, preferable.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, think it over. Let's discuss it on Slack and Thaddeus so that everybody gets a chance to get their 2 cents in. And after the discussion has died down, I'll draw a conclusion from it.
Yeah.
Any other ideas or comments or criticisms?
Yeah, Billy, you played a lot with you tried to build some stories with the editor. Do you have oh, do you have a voice?
I don't understand.
It looks like Billy's muted.
Billy's muted, yeah. Maybe he's not here. I don't know, because he played a lot and he reacted a lot with on Slack. So I was asking myself, how was it to work with the software, because he actually used it a lot.
Yeah.
It seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he's not here.
Well, Billy, if you're here, at least type in something into chat.
We are playing Ouija. What is it?
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, Billy's here. So anyway, let's see. Anything else to talk about?
Is that possible to replace your options by your former technology about your verbal-based system, like some troll language, to just like the players to play with the word-based sentences to make the options? Is that possible?
It's possible, but I don't want to do it. You see, my conclusion after the Storytron experience, the Storytron technology is glorious. It's wonderful. It does a million great things, and it's impossible to figure out. Nobody other than myself ever really mastered that technology. It's too complicated. So with the encounter system, I said, my fundamental design concept was to radically cut back on the complexity. How can I reduce this to the absolute minimum required to do decent interactive storytelling? And that's what I came up with the encounter system. My hope is that after enough people get familiar with the encounter system, they will start saying, I want more power. I want to be able to do more things. And then we can talk about moving back up to Storytron. But for now, I think it is insufficient to, or there's just not enough real interest in tackling the Storytron technology. So first we have to get, for the simple concept of blend and inclinations and so forth, those concepts are still, I'm surprised to say, are still difficult for some people to grasp. So let's get people used to the ideas and using them over and over, and maybe at some point they'll be ready to graduate to Storytron.
I understand the reason. So you can just you just want to reduce the complexity about your system, so that people to get rid of how that.
Yeah, it's sad because See, the problem was I was too close to the Storytron technology. I looked at it and said, "Yeah, it's like a word processor. What's the big deal?" It's not like a word processor. This is like coding in assembly language, and so I went too far. Let's see. Billy says, like, you had to tab off a field to have it say, yeah. I'll try to create a simple story world. I think someone said gossiping was simplest story world it could be. Yes, gossip is although that's a more procedural game. I did a game called Gossip back in '83, and then I did it again in 2010 or 2011. You might look at that. It's there's some elegant aspects of the design, but if you're going to build something from scratch, you definitely want to start with Gossip. I don't know how well it will work in an encounter system, which is a bunch of instances where Gossip is very procedural. But I'll point out the problem. I'm constrained to some extent by Java. For example, every time you make an entry in Java, except in the big text field, you have to hit tab or carriage return to actually enter that textual data. That's Java. And you can understand there is a reason why they do it. They don't want to have a listener constantly listening to every single one of those fields. So, and those fields don't have any concept of focus. So it's very difficult to do that in Java. Let's see. Is it you on the picture? It looks like film photography from the 70s. Oh, to everyone.
Oh, was that to Billy?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Cool picture.
As we have conversation, we also have what is action. Question, with the current version of Wumpus, can you have more than one antagonist with different antagonists? Yes, definitely. If you have multiple characters, you can have an encounter. An encounter is always between two people. One of them is always the protagonist. However, the antagonist can be any of the other characters. So yes, you can have these multiple interactions. I did the simplest possible with rom-com, where there's only one possible antagonist. But sure. Again, I would suggest you get comfortable with, just a two, something like rom-com. Before you go on to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so forth, it gets more complicated. So anyway, so yes, you do have a smidge of complexity there, in that you can get multiple characters there.
What was I thinking about? We talked about interactivity. Text. Because text is not really fun. Maybe one way of putting it in a fun interactive way would be to do like text messages or answers. But that would be completely different. But some games are doing this, like you have a game where you send texts to a guy that is going from North Africa to Europe, and I think you are the girlfriend, and he's texting you sometimes. So he's using the push notifications the game is using the push like if you were talking to a real person, but it's actually a character. So you can't type, you can choose option 1 to 3, like we would do with Wumpus, but it's a game and it's linear and it's not at all a story world, but it's a way to do interaction as with a fun envelope, with a fun, but you said it's we need to do it as a basic text and to see if it's fun before doing all the nice envelope.
I will say that the concept of presenting the player with 2 or 3 options is a fundamental concept that we can't get rid of that.
No.
You don't get to make choices. You don't have interaction. So that's essential. And then the feedback in the form of reactions is also essential. So this is, again, this is the absolute minimum for interactive storytelling, at least as far as I can tell. Perhaps someday somebody can come along and say, I came up with a way to cut it down even simpler. But I think we're there right now.
So Douglas's comment of, as we have conversational content, we also have what is action. I came across this little problem when I was doing the climbing world, where it was like, I had a character, I had you in a tent, one character leaves the tent into a blizzard on a rope, and I wanted to be able to cut the rope so he couldn't come back to the tent.
Okay.
And that is possible in the branching world. You can have the branching world where, you know, Egar goes out into the blizzard and is never found again. In the less consequential world, Egar could show up again and just really doesn't like you because he knew he cut the rope. But what is this line between, you know, action of like object and people, like in Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet, like you need the poison, you need them to kill themselves at the end, so they need to use an object to kill themselves. Like that's an action.
Yeah, the danger, what you need to avoid is the idea of the branching tree where this action leads to that
The explosion
state and so forth. Now, what that means really is the standard solution to that is basically the structure where you give them 2 choices, but whichever choice they make, it folds back. And you just have a sequence of these. That's been one cheat that people have used through the years. In fact, it was the basis for one of the big milestones in movie history at the, did I ever tell you the story about the 1968 World's Fair in Toronto and a movie there? Basically, some Czechoslovakian filmmakers came up with this wonderful movie. And it was interactive. They'd play the movie, and then every now and then they'd stop the movie projectors and they'd ask the audience, well, gee, at this point, the protagonist could do this or he could do that. Which do you think he should do? And the audience,
I've read about this.
Yeah, okay, good. And the audience would vote, and they'd say, okay, we'll have him do this. And they would then show the movie with that. And there were half a dozen or a dozen of these decision points. Well, it turned out that, and this was the brilliant idea about it, the movie was fundamentally about the futility of free will in a communist system. No matter what you did, things always turned out the same way. And so they just had 2 movies and 2 projectors, and they were running simultaneously, and they just cover up one of them or the other, depending on which choice you made. And once audience found this out, their first reaction was, you know, you cheated me. My decisions didn't have any effect. But then they realized that's the whole point. Now you can get away with that if that's your artistic message, but you can't get away with that in general. So my solution is to give you choices, and they do all feed back. In fact, there's no notion of going away and coming back. You just go down the line. But as you do, you're changing some variables. The values of those variables are changing with time. And at some point, those variables come into play and they decide how everything ends. So, I don't know, that's just a completely different approach. Again, it also really makes the interactivity, I mean, you spend a lot of time going through this process without, you're getting immediate feedback, but you don't quite have a feeling for where you're going until you reach the end and all of those values of those variables come in and you win or you lose based on it. So, anyway.
The variable values was another thing I was thinking about in terms of feedback. Like the player is getting, through the reaction, is getting feedback on what the general state of the antagonist is.
Yeah.
However, it's not like, you know, the object isn't turning red when it's getting more damage. It's a much subtler or invisible type of feedback.
Yeah. Well, for example, I think in the rom-com, there's a point where one of your options is definitely the wrong option. And the girl says, oh, something like, oh, that's nice. And so you're getting and in the process, you've put her off. You've diminished her affection for you. And you get the feedback that, yeah, she's not too pleased with this. So, yeah, you can get the local feedback. But again, it's also, it's not quantified the way, you know, when you're playing a game and you kill a monster and a little number, 23 appears, you got 23 points and it drifts up and disappears. That's great feedback, but I'm sorry, stories don't work that way.
But in the side boot build of this, you know, you had the facial expressions. You had that sort of feedback going on. You knew somebody, you know, hated you from the facial expression, from in the encounter itself. That's where I was going with it. It's like, we're presenting them with the same encounter and they might not have the, you know, they might have, you know, thought they did something good, but the person's actually upset at them, or.
Yeah, the face,
I don't know.
That would add enormously to it. For now, I have decided to leave that out. It wouldn't be that difficult to put it in. But again, I don't want to hit people with too many possibilities.
Options.
So yeah, we can put faces back in when people are comfortable. With Le Mort d'Arthur, I'm tempted to have faces, but for the moment, I'm focusing more on fixed images that don't focus on the person you're interacting with, but rather with the situation. So I'm really trying to communicate the world in which Arthur is operating. This is very much based on real world stuff. This is not at all knights in shining armor or anything like that. This is Britain in the 5th and 6th centuries, and everything's very dirty. So. Let's see. Okay. Wow. Disco Elysium took 6 years to write.
Oh yeah.
You should play that game, Chris. It is it's a fun game, and the writing in it was fantastic. I played it on Lorenzo's suggestion, and it is a linear story that totally tricks you into thinking you are in an open world RPG.
Mm.
And like I was like 6 hours into a playthrough playing a different character before I realized I had been totally tricked for the entire first playthrough. It's like the writing is that on point.
Okay. Okay, good.
It uses a lot of techniques, like you don't remember who you are, and so you learn about yourself during the game. You learn that you're a cop.
That's an overused trick. Normally,
So,
I mean, movies don't have to do that. The people who make movies are very good at telling you the backstory in bits and pieces in the introduction of the movie and as the movie develops. So, and that's really not that difficult.
yeah, but you have conversations with yourself. You have 26, instead of having skills like strengths, intelligence, you have 26 kind of personality traits, and you can
Like
encourage.
radical feminist is like a perk you can upgrade.
That's perks. I'm talking about personality, like no, like I don't know how to say it's like authority or
Insight.
book smart, or like or like emotional intelligence, or like
But these attributes unlock, like when you're in the text stream and let's say you talk to an NPC, this attribute would unlock a character insight about that. So if you had very high empathy, you might have empathy highlighted, and then that empathy part of your fragmented personality will tell you what that person is feeling. In the first person of a character called empathy. It's very difficult to describe, but it's wonderful to experience.
With yourself, it's like they did what is Dostoevsky is doing with the guy talking to himself in his mind and having different point of views. So like if you put points in the character, in the persona that is having that loves having drugs and alcohol, and you put points into the authority, you will have a duel. When you see a drug, the drug part will say, take the drugs. And the authority will say, you know what you look like when you take drugs. You shouldn't do this. And then you have something else. So if you invest into the drama personality, you can feel when someone is lying to you and you can lie. So you will say, this guy is lying to you, don't trust him. Or you will say, maybe you should say you are a pirate, or you are a very important person, something like that. It's a very cool game because you can he talked about radical feminists. It's like you have ideas, you hear about an idea, someone is talking to you about white supremacy, so you can internalize the idea and being able to say racist things in order for him to like you and let you basically pass the door or something. Or you can decide to be a communist, or decide to be a royalist, or decide to be a loner, or decide to be anything, a capitalist or anything. And it's all, yeah.
Billy asks a question here about, where's the interaction? Really, what the encounter system or technology does is it eliminates instant feedback and instead gives you long-term feedback, which is much more like stories and the real world. That is, you don't, here we go, you're going through school. You spend all these years and yeah, sure, you get feedback, grades, big deal. In terms of substantial feedback, there's none until you finally graduate and you finally go out and get a job, which is what the whole point of this was. And then years after you started, somebody says, I'll give you a great job that's high paying and uses all of your education. Or somebody says, yeah, well, you can clean up the garbage for us. That's when your work comes due. there are an awful lot of stories. In fact, almost all stories go through all of this rigmarole, and only at the end does everything come due. And that's what the encounter system does. Yes, there's interaction, and you're given all sorts of feedback about how good or bad you are doing, rather like a report card. Not that specific though. But at the end, you definitely get a result. And so I could imagine somebody playing Le Mort d'Arthur, and at the end, taking what I call the long walk down the short spear. Are you guys familiar with how many versions of the Arthurian stories end with Arthur and Mordred? Oh, this is actually, this was in the, I believe it, yes, it was in, what's his name? Come on, the guy in 1480 who put it together, Mallory, in Mallory's version, and was replicated in quite a few others. Basically, they're having a great big battle, the final battle between Arthur and Mordred, and the two armies fight and fight and fight and blah, blah, blah. And at the very end, Mordred sees Arthur and runs at him with a spear and runs him through with the spear. And Arthur just stands there, and the spear goes through him. And then Arthur grabs the shaft of the spear and starts pulling himself forward, walking down the spear towards Mordred. And he's just looking at Mordred, and Mordred is horrified. And Arthur reaches Mordred, pulls out his sword, and kills Mordred. And that's the, and then Arthur dies. But that's one of the greatest endings of any story. If you want, you should look. There's an old movie called Excalibur, which was done 40 years ago, and it is still the best movie about the Arthurian legends that anybody has ever done. It didn't have the multi-million-dollar budget that modern movies have, and so there's some really things in it, but it has some of the best lines, and the way it tells the story, it is the only movie I've seen that comes close to representing what the real Arthurian legends were all about. And
1981?
1981.
Okay, I've seen this one. This is a good movie.
Yeah, it's directed by John Borman, and but Mordred had great lines. At one point he says, when a man lies, he murders a part of the world. And then a little later, Mordred is telling everybody, remember this night. And then he turns away and says, for it is the doom of men that they forget. He's got great lines. So anyway, yeah, Arthurian legends. There are a million versions of them. There's a feminist Arthurian legend, lots of military Arthurian legends, lots of hack and slash Arthurian legends. There are lots of satirical Arthurian legends, such as Don Quixote and Mark Twain's Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's Court. There's poems. I mean, this is a huge field. So anyway, no, the protagonist does not see the numbers changing. The protagonist has to rely on the reactions, the textual feedback. And the textual feedback should be sufficient to get the point across. But no, we don't say, you just lost 3 points worth of affection. Let's see. So is the feedback given by the reaction? Yeah, the feedback in the reaction gives you an idea of the effect. Let's see. What's that link, Billy? Can you explain what that goes to? Oh, is that an Excalibur? Oh, that's the long walk down the short spear. Yep, that is a great moment. Especially the looks on the faces. They did it. The actors did a very good job. Especially Arthur, the grim determination in his face. I'm gonna kill you, even though I'm dying here. Anyway, well, it looks like we're out of time here. So for homework, George, you've got to put together this jam.
Oh yeah, we're building 35 encounters on Saturday. I will guarantee that.
Okay.
They're going to be terrible encounters. It's not going to be a good story, but there will be 35 encounters in a row for us to interact with.
Should we continue the Zoom afterwards? Or what?
Here we go.
I'm into it to discuss Saturday if you want to do that.
Yeah.
I showed you my bronze leaf-bladed sword. This was my first attempt.
Oh. It's Excalibur.
Didn't quite work. So if you guys managed to make something like this, I think you should be proud.
Yeah, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it was good seeing you all, and we meet again here the third Thursday, so that'll be 9 days, and it'll be 4 hours later than now.
Can we continue the Zoom? Can you let it open so we can still talk? Do you have to give the rights to someone? How does it work?
Let's see. Does anybody know how to do that?
I don't know actually.
No. I'm pretty sure it can be done, but I don't see it. Speaker view, screen.
Yeah, because you had passed off host in one of the previous meetings for that masterclass.
Yeah, no, that's not
Maybe
it.
someone needs to ask you to be.
I don't
We
see it.
can do the talk in another.
Yeah, like if somebody puts the private waiting room, or we could all go to Slack, right? There's a chat functionality in there.
I think you're gonna have to go to Slack because, see, this is my personal meeting room. I didn't declare it as a public meeting. That's why.
Okay.
I can use my account to do a public meeting, but I did this as a personal meeting, and so.
Oh, it's okay. It's okay.
Okay, well, why don't you carry on Slack then?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the
Okay. See you later.
See you.
Bye.